Hey guys, this is Mark, and today I've got a message to the neurotypical spouses out there, and I want to take a look at what's really behind the anger that you witness in your autistic spouse, because there's always something behind the curtain. The only thing you see is anger, but there's a bunch of other stuff going on that's the core issue. We'll look at each of these in turn. It could be anxiety, emotional vulnerability, grief or depression, hurt, low self-esteem, powerlessness, and even fear. So we'll look at each of these in turn. Anger hides anxiety. Okay? Our bodies interpret anger as a threat to survival, and as a result, we release adrenaline and noradrenaline to help us cope. Now, these hormones act as an analgesic. In fact, anger makes us feel better in the short term because it numbs our emotional and physical discomfort, but that's not a healthy long-term solution. So people on the autism spectrum should not allow themselves to get addicted to this kind of painkiller. If they do, then outbursts of anger may become a way of life. And unfortunately for too many people, in this case spouses on the autism spectrum, anger has already become a way of life. Anger also hides emotional vulnerability. Some people on the autism spectrum use anger as a way to distance themselves from their NT spouse. Perhaps they feel safer if their spouse is held at arm's length, or maybe they find it hard to express their true personal needs and desires. Anger also hides grief and depression. It's very common for people on the autism spectrum to respond to grief and depression by getting angry. And this is their way of coping with the pain that they're feeling. And the reason that they would opt for anger instead of feeling grief is because anger is less painful. Anger also hides hurt. Admitting that we feel hurt is too much for some of us. It's almost better to explode in rage than to show we care or that we're upset by whatever's happened. So hurt hides behind anger when you feel unloved, rejected, or criticized. And many people on the autism spectrum remember those high school days and all the teasing, harassment, bullying, rejection, and so on. And they have carried that childhood anger into adulthood. Anger also hides low self-esteem. A person on the spectrum who's been experiencing anger control issues for many years may admit to himself, if not to others, that he sometimes struggles with self-esteem issues. He may have internal dialogues that revolve around themes like, any minute now somebody will see that I'm useless or I'm stupid or a complete fraud or not good enough and so on. And sometimes these feelings of shame are just too painful to bear, and a less painful emotion would be anger. Anger hides powerlessness. You know, if we go through life feeling weak, hopeless, helpless, overlooked, or undervalued, anger often hides these feelings of powerlessness. And lastly, anger hides fear. The most common feeling that hides behind anger is definitely fear, but unless we're developing a habit of mindfulness, which is making ourselves aware of our emotions as they arise, it can be difficult to identify the emotions lurking beneath our anger. Our best indication of what those emotions may be is to consider how we feel about ourselves at the times when we are not feeling angry. So those are the 7 big things that really go on behind the anger. What you see is anger, but what's going on behind the anger can be anxiety, emotional vulnerability, grief or depression, hurt, low self-esteem, powerlessness, or fear. If you are struggling in your neurodiverse marriage, then head on over to ASDRelationshipsolutions.com, and I look forward to seeing you over there.